26, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is how everything you do in your life or don't do compounds on something else, specifically in the realm of health, whether that's physical, mental, spiritual. These things all bleed into each other or strengthen one another. So, where I realized it in my life was when my physical health was lacking, my mental health started to take a toll. And then when my mental health started to take a toll, everything spiritual fell out of whack. I had questions about my identity. I had questions about who I was, what my purpose was, what kind of father I was supposed to be, what am I supposed to do on this earth for other people, for myself. So when I had doubts in the mental that were caused by the physical or the lack of being physically aware and physically fit and physically strong, I became mentally weak. And when I became mentally weak, it then allowed these spiritual issues to pop up in my life where I was questioning, where I was doubting, not only myself, but God and everything in between. Like I didn't have any confidence. And when you don't have that confidence physically, mentally, or spiritually, it then leads to what seems to be inevitable and what's so common nowadays is this depression or anxiety or whatever it might be that we see in so many people. And so I've learned that through the physical, mental, spiritual, and it goes backwards too. If your spiritual is not in check, then you'll notice like I feel like the mental also then takes a toll. And when your mental health is out of just like out of where it should be, the physical, it's all like I said before, it's all a circle. And without one piece, those issues then bleed out not only on you, but on the people around you. And when they're bleeding out on the people around you, it then becomes a much larger issue that's harder to diagnose, whether it's through anger or it's through impatience or it's through depression or anxiety. Like I realized that taking care of my physical fitness and then kind of indirectly helped my mental. And then the mental helped the spiritual. And me being spiritually intact allowed me to be more physically confident in myself or more mentally confident or more mentally equipped to deal with struggles or whatever might be happening in my life. And that was the difference for me, was realizing the impact that they all had on another rather than it being a standalone thing that so many people nowadays think. They think they're mentally not okay. They think and that their physical is just not good. We're overweight, we're sick, whatever it might be. And they don't realize that that's why they're mentally not okay. Or they don't have the spiritual sense of relationship or anything on that note. So then their mental's impacted because they don't know who they are. They don't know what their identity is. They don't know who they belong to or what they should be doing with their life. It's all impacts one another. And the next thing I learned is that nobody's coming to save you at 26 years old. That's never been more clear. Like if you want to be the best version of yourself physically, the best version of yourself mentally, spiritually, financially, whatever it might be, you are on your own for better or for worse. And if you didn't know that, I hope you know that now because it didn't like, and I know that sounds so simple. And of course, yeah, nobody's going to come save me. There's no white knight riding in on a horse to come and give me all the money I want and to make me the fittest version of myself. Like it requires work. And that's, like I said, it sounds simple, but I feel like a lot of people, and myself included, like I feel like you kind of fall into these ruts where you're relying on the people around you to pull you out of it. And then you make yourself a liability. You make yourself a weakness for other people that they have to take care of you or they have to keep a temperature gauge on you to make sure that the room is like you have an impact everywhere you go. And if you're someone that's waiting around to be saved, chances are it's a negative impact. And I realized that like you can walk into a room and be a light and be a leader, or you can darken it and you can suck the energy out of that room. And that's completely up to you. And that doesn't mean that you have to have all the money in the world or that you have to be super jacked or you have to be the most mentally sound person who's never struggled in your life. Like those are not realistic things. But it does mean you have to be aware of your situation, be aware of who you are, and make sure that whatever it is you want, whatever it is you're going after, you realize it's on you. It's on me. I had to realize that like I can sit around and complain about being fat, or I can go out and fix it. I can sit around and complain about being spiritually weak or disconnected, or I can fix it. or I can try to fix it. At least try. You're going to fail, but try. And lastly, at 26, being married, having two kids, both, very young, a 3-year-old and a 1-year old, being married for almost 5 years, I realized something about myself that I look back and I know was wrong and is wrong. And it's that I, for the longest, relied on other people to be a happy version of myself. I wasn't naturally that way. There was a point where I was, and I was so filled with energy and happiness, and I was a lot like I felt like I would always be the light in the room. And then, like, as I got older, that kind of went away because I realized that, like, I was counting on other people to be that for me, which is not fair and it's not right to go to a wife and count on her to be your happiness and be your joy. And you realize as time goes on that happiness and joy are two separate things. Happiness is like this temporary state. Happiness is in that moment where things are good, and or you're in a fun time, or you're having a moment with your kids and you just got that smile on your face, like that might be happiness. But I think joy is a state of mind, like state of being. Joy is that regardless of my circumstances, I can acknowledge my blessings, I can acknowledge what's not going my way, but I'm still going to carry joy with me. I'm still going to be the person that when people check in with me in the morning and they say, "Hey, how are you?" I'm blessed. You're filled with joy, regardless. You can have the worst morning ever. You have a fight with your wife. The kids are not listening, but you still have joy. And that's not something that you give yourself. That's not something that other people give you. That's something that like is given from above. That's given outside of yourself. That you have to seek outside of yourself, because if you're seeking it within yourself, it's going to be that very temporary, short burst happiness that a lot of people are convinced is joy. And joy is deeper than that. Joy is more consistent than that. Joy is more enduring than that. And happiness isn't. Happiness is a flash in the pan that if you're lucky enough, it can happen, can happen a lot or frequently, but it's not the state of mind. It's not the state of being. And I think that's the difference. That's something that I've learned is that joy and happiness are not the same. And you should be seeking joy, and the happiness will come. Everybody has happy moments and sad moments, but that shouldn't take away your joy. If you've watched this far, first off, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you clicked on this video and watched today. If it was something you enjoyed, it's content that you'd like to see more of, I just ask that you like the video and subscribe. And if you're so willing, I just ask that you send it to somebody else who might get the same benefit from it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hopefully, that some of these things I've learned, these lessons I share, help you stay on mission too. Peace.